How do I think that's done? It's contributing to Zombie Grub's chair. Because we want her to be comfortable casting. There we go, that's all sorted. Alright, fantastic. Without further ado, we hop into game number 2 in this best of 5 as I press all of the wrong buttons. I always do this. Wait, I'm having such a dumb moment. ieZael just won that game, right? Yeah, right, the Mutalisk, okay. Sorry, just one of those quick moments. Spotted here in the lower left corner of the map, game number 2 in this best of 5, currently down 1. It is the Red Protoss, OldPeaceRoadz. Gotta give it to him. Cool tactics, strong strategy, and Sentinels are fun units, but just couldn't pull it together in the end. His opponent in the upper right, playing for APSC2, the Spanish StarCraft 2, well, I imagine player, but at least team, pink Zerg player ieZael. Who's been playing pretty darn good today. Again, as stated, a lot of that game looked like the pressure was really on him, that he may have been out of that, bullied on early by those Sentinels, but held it together, kept a cool head, and, well, cooler heads prevailed, is what it boiled down to. OldPeaceRoadz going to have to change his tactics up a little bit here. I think the Sentinel usage is actually perfectly fine. The way he uses it is fun, it's innovative, and it's not something that ieZael is going to necessarily see coming anytime soon. That being said, you can't dedicate, you can't, what's the, I'm so bad with phrases today, I've gotten every single one wrong, but I think I got this one. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, or is it don't count your chickens before they hatch? Either way, you can't rely on just Sentinels to win you a game. The aggression he had was pretty cool. Would love to see that come out perhaps sooner than later. He almost won with that giant break into the Hydralisk line, but again, if you could just consider for a second, if ieZael had like 1 or 2 Dragoons down, that could have been a very different, very one-sided fight. But OldPeaceRoadz poking up with the probe. Kind of like this just feels like, I don't know, an old like a OldPeaceRoadz up on that farm over yonder on the hill. Old man PeaceRoadz. I don't know. Anyways, Cadron Crystal's on the way. It looks like we're going to have a bit of a blockage here. There's no Forge at home, right? I didn't miss that. Okay, so it's not Cannon Rush. A little bit curious on what he plans to do here. I guess if he puts off enough surface area, the Zealot can hold position on 1. I don't know. I don't think... Why did he build a pylon? I just don't understand. Stargate's coming up back at home too. Perhaps this was to scare ieZael a little bit, make him force out drones, or sorry, lings over drones. Well, either way, spy car is being put down. This is not like this will be bad. This will be actually really nice to have for the Zealot that's about to poke up with this too. No warp tech, so it's not like this is a proxy pylon by that means. What did you put this pylon down for, man? I'm like trying to guess this sick metagame OldPeaceRoadz might be having, but I think he just did it by accident, if I'm going to be honest with you guys. Warp Tech is tier 3, nothing close to tier 1, so we'll just ignore it for now. Looks like the Sentinel will be chronoed out. We'll try and get this out really quickly, says OldPeaceRoadz. Spy car coming down and a lot of lings will chip away at the pylon. There we go, it does go down, but again, I don't understand that pylon placement in the first place, so not a big deal. Back at home, he's got a nice little choke set up. Lings shouldn't be able to run by this by any means. This should give him plenty of opportunity to just send that Sentinel right across the map, perhaps harass the mineral lines a little bit. No Robotech, no additional gateways, no sentries, or sorry, no reavers, no warp prisms. Does have to be a little bit careful here. That is one of the downsides when, you know, he doesn't have any. I think he might need to wall this off. Quite frankly, you can't warp in a Zealot behind this. Okay, no, he's got it. He's got it. Lings are funneling in like idiots and not quite focus firing. So chipping away at the pylon instead of the Zealot. Looks like probe will hold this. One Ling slips through, but on the other side of the map, we got the Sentinel already starting to be a bit of an annoyance. Nothing too crazy going down just yet. Can flare. There we go. No ward does go down. I'm sorry, I know it's called a null ward, but let's be honest, guys. You ever seen a flare in a movie? That's what this looks like. Queen is going to get involved with that Enrage. Really love the Enrage effect on the Queen, by the way. It looks super duper cool. Of course, the null ward does slow it down a little bit, so this Sentinel should be able to escape. A transfuse from the other one will keep this front one alive too, so... Yeah, it's pretty well held here out of ieZael, not really taking too much from this. Spore car going to come down pretty quick, not going to waste any time. Yeah, just has to reposition a tad. Another null ward going to go down, but as we see, it doesn't really kill the workers, but it's got that time warp effect where they're just slowed forever. Caller is in the main with a queen as well. Of course, queens can't quite auto attack. Doesn't have the energy for an enrage, so this could actually be a bit of an annoyance, but we got Spire on the way here, not going to lose his cool. If he scouts this, perhaps we'll see earlier Corsairs. That's actually something I would have enjoyed seeing. WTF is a Sentinel. I guess if you guys are just tuning in, this is Starbow, and there's some very unique units in this. Oracles do not exist, as we just learned last game, in this game too. Looks like that Null Ward will actually shoot up, which is kind of cool to consider. Mutalisks will have the giant slow on them. Time Warp, of course, in regular StarCraft doesn't affect them the slightest. But trying to focus on the Spire. It's got a Null Ward down to try and ward off the threat of enemies, but another Queen coming here in Rage will be able to kill one of the Sentinels! No! With 1 health and 1 shield! It barely walks away with a bit of a saving throw, I guess. I don't know what you want to call it, but either way, nicely held. This Queen looks like it will go down. It's unfortunately going to splat all over the place there, and I think, yeah, the Spire's getting poked away at. It's not going to go down anytime soon, but it's always a danger to consider. Corsairs are going to be made earlier this game. Corsairs, again, a Brood War unit that's been resurrected into Starbow. For those who don't know what it does, it attacks very, very insanely quickly. It has a very small splash radius associated with it, unlike the huge one that the Corsair and Brood War had, and it attacks for like 5. So it's not too unlike the role of the Phoenix. It's just the splash damage that you really, really not only like want to rely on, but need to rely on in order to deal with Mutalisk clumps, which, as we see, are going to be coming out. The Carapace upgrade is actually really smart here out of ieZael, though, because Corsairs, again, they might splash, but it's not much. They don't even have a lot of initial damage associated with them. So, while they attack really quick, that's going to be the one thing they have going for them. And, well, it's like watching Lings versus Zealots is what it's going to come down to if he doesn't have the damage to actually deal with the Mutalisks. Not to mention, let's not forget, Mutalisks might not spread, they might not magic box the same way they do in StarCraft 2, but with some micro can certainly make it happen. Even some Scourges gonna come out here. Scourges, of course, are suicidal air units, not unlike Banelings. Do again have a small splash radius around them, and I want to emphasize very, very small, but yeah, it can take out the Corsairs rather quickly. They move at the same speed as a Mutalisk, which is slightly, exactly the same as a Corsair, actually. I didn't know that. Cool. But their health pool is low. With 35, Corsair should be able to take care of it pretty decently, but instead, just, eats them both. Third Corsair needs to turn around and come back home immediately. Second Stargate was thrown down, slapped down, if you will. Some Dragoons have been made, and of course, no wards are waiting above the mineral line. So if the Mutalisks actually fly into this, they're not just going to take some splash damage, they're going to be slowed, which means the Dragoons will get more hits off on them, and the Corsairs will do a little bit more damage. But it's not the natural base, it is the main that's being targeted. Regardless, there are no wards waiting. It looks like they will detonate on the Mutalisks and get quite a bit of damage done there. Probes, unfortunately, have been slowed underneath this, but as we see, Corsairs, they're not bad, but they're not exactly damage dealers, guys. Another couple no wards will go down, but there's 5 Corsairs now. Now the Mutalisks are in for some trouble. This is 25 damage every, like, point-something seconds, 0.5 seconds. Not quite using all of them, though, but they could have killed all those Mutalisks, I feel, or at least not all of them, most of them, but a little bit of miscontrol slipped there, and it's going to cost them a bit here, as the Mutalisks will just retreat and heal up. Macro hatchery will be made at the natural. Of course, we have that third base down. So, again, queens don't quite have that larva inject. You're forced to make the extra hatcheries if you really want to mass produce, which, of course, you know, ieZael wants to do. Hydralisk Den coming out here as well as the ranged weapon upgrades. I would not be shocked, guys, if we got to see some lurkers this game. In fact, I have got my fingers crossed, and I am hoping we get to see some lurkers this game. It's going to shut down the Dragoons outright, because while the Sentinels can turn into detection mode, you got to remember, most of the Sentinels are picked off. There's a couple remaining, sure, and a Null Ward looks like it wants to arm. Will not quite get that opportunity, though. The Scourges will get a pretty good connect on these units. Corsairs are still standing, but again, the Mutalisks are not in one group. They are in 2 separate ones, so engaging on this is not easy. We do have air weapons on the way and a couple Dragoons still on the ground, but the Mutalisks, of course, they got maneuverability on their side, as always. That's one thing that has not changed from StarCraft 2 to Starbow. Even gets a Dragoon here in the middle of the map. Both players on 3 bases now, though, or at least will be shortly. OldPeaceRoadz kind of knows he can't stay on one for too long. And Vengeful Sacs, ooh, kind of curious how this is going to be utilized. Perhaps carries over lurkers. Maybe we're not even going to see lurkers, guys. I don't know, but Vengeful Sacs is a very interesting choice to put into the Overlords. We'll see if it comes into effect. Because a huge run by actually catches OldPeaceRoadz a little bit off guard here. Mutalisks are going to be dealt with pretty swiftly, though, and this is a problem. This is a big problem. Mutalisks are a large part of the control that he has on the map, and he knows he can't take this fight. He can't throw these Mutalisks away. Even if he kills the entire army, which he won't, of OldPeaceRoadz, it's not worth losing every single Mutalisk. The constant threat of harass, ducking in and out, picking off free units here and there is a big deal. Ooh, nice, turns around on a dime. But okay. Gets his Mutalisk out alive. #1 priority. Losing Lings, unfortunate, but a necessary sacrifice to get out of there. More Corsairs are being made, and of course, as we talked about before, the level 1 ranged weapon upgrades, air weapon upgrades are on the way. But it's these Ventricle Sacks I'm still quite curious about. Is he going to just carry Hydralisks to the main? Like, I'm not sure what the plan is there. Nidus Worms, by the way. Oh god, I hope ieZael makes a Nidus Worm. If you guys haven't seen a Nidus Worm in STARBOW, first off, you can go see it in BCQD versus Tefl. It's up on our YouTube channel. But Nidus Worms are friggin' huge compared to regular school Nidus Worms. Still some Corsairs floating about, though. OldPeaceRoadz has responded to this game so far quite appropriately, and he's not quite out of this like he was in game ¡1. That being said, he is struggling to get ahead. The Mutalisks are just constantly being a threat. Lots of cannons at each base will keep him back for now. And finally, he can comfortably mine off this third. 4 cannons down and a lot of roaming Corsairs will be pretty nice. Now, unfortunately, Corsairs do not, I repeat, do not have Disruption Web like they do in Brood War. So they're kind of actually useless against ground, which is why I think the Hydralisk swap is really fantastic. If he can deal, he's still got to deal with the Dragoons though, which is not going to be an easy task. But you know, the Corsairs are gonna. It's like investing in a bunch of Vikings, right? Like that's a bad example because actually Vikings can land to be even, albeit useless, a little bit effective, but still, he's gonna have a ton of units to deal with the Mutalisks as long as ieZael doesn't over-invest into them. But I take all that back because level 2. Oh, ground carapace. Never mind. I thought there was air carapace for a second. But yeah, if he doesn't overinvest into the Mutalisk, keeps like honestly, I'd love to see an amount between 10 and 15. What does he have right now? 14. Yeah, so in that sweet spot to constantly harass, constantly be ducking in and out of where he can. You know, catching freaking zealots like this for free. That's huge. That's fantastic. Hydralisks are going to help guard against the Corsairs as well, so he's got a pretty good composition going here as far as this push goes. But I say push with a little bit of tentativeness because I don't know how much he's going to get done. This is going to be a really nice choke for OldPeaceRoadz to fight him. We got Storm on the way. It's not here yet. In Storm, in regular StarCraft 2, guys, it only hits for like 80 damage. It's like a wet rag compared to the 125 it deals here in STARBOW. And of course, Hydralisks only have 80 health, so it's kind of like storming a Marine. For context, I guess, as far as like contrast goes. But moving up here towards the third, wants to take a fight. There's a lot of Dragoons here. There's still the Corsairs. He can't quite clump these Mutalisks. He's trying to spread them, but to no avail. Takes out most of the Dragoons on the ground, though. There's still cannons to chew through, and these Hydralisks are still standing. Has to be careful with how much he dedicates into this, though. You see Chrono Boost on the cannons. You might be wondering, why are the cannons Chrono Boosted? It makes them attack 50% faster, but is that even going to be enough? Hydra's tearing out these Zealots, and of course the Corsairs have stayed before. They could try and draw some auto attacks, but I think that's about it. OldPeaceRoadz may just be for here, guys. He's chronoing some Zealots, but they don't have that speed bonus. Connecting to the Hydralisks will not be easy. He knows Storm is so close to finishing, but good game is going to be called. And ieZael will take game #2, leading him 2-0 now in this best of 5 finals.